He's Jared Smith. Jared, before we get into the show, I got a little bit of a confession here. Rough Sunday for me. I had a great Saturday. Haven't been having a pretty solid couple days in college football. Yesterday didn't go so well for me. Was 0-2 to start the day. My third pick was Steelers plus the 6, right? I tapped out early. Halftime, I just didn't like what I was seeing. Cut the game off, put on Dexter, and went to bed.
Dexter? I didn't know you were a Dexter guy. Okay.
Oh my gosh, an elite show. I'm actually.
It is a really good show.
I'm enjoying the new season, but yeah, and then I wake up and see that epic comeback, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. So
what a game!
Just one of those days. I mean, just a crazy weekend.
It really was. Road teams continue to just cook, and home field advantage has never meant less in the NFL. 11-3 ATS road teams this week, if you count Thursday's Patriots cover in Atlanta. And this season, road teams are covering at 60% in the NFL.
60%.
60%, which is the highest. I look back, I went 6 years back to 2016. And it's never been higher than 56 in a full season. Even last year, without fans in the stands, it was only 50.5%, 51%. So that's been a trend. We've talked about the underdogs ad nauseum. That's a trend that continues to be prevalent. I think the NFL markets are way more volatile this year than the college markets, which is rare. Usually the college markets, because there's way more teams and they're 18 to 22-year-old kids. Yeah. There's more volatility in those markets, but I've had a much easier time predicting the college markets than the NFL markets this year. The NFL markets have just been an absolute crapshoot. You buckle up, you hold on for dear life, and you just try to have as much fun as you can because it has been a wild ride in the NFL this year.
As much fun as you can. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get started, obviously make sure that you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. And let us know in the comments what picks you're on. And if you have any questions, we will be happy to answer them. Both Jared and I have the chat up, so we're going to be checking that periodically to make sure we're connecting with you guys. And make sure you download the Pickswise app, available on the Apple Store and in Google Play. A lot to get to today. It's Monday. We're going to obviously do our Market Correction Monday, talk about some of the big movers after yesterday's slate. There's been some significant movements with some teams here when we're talking about Super Bowl champions and division winners here. We're going to do a little therapy. I need to release some things off my chest. We're going to get into it. I had a weird, I did this to myself. I had a weird Sunday. And then we're going to have some Monday night football picks with our friend Gilles Gallant of Bets TV. And of course, we're going to end things with our picks of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And Jared, let's start with Market Correction Monday. And I'm going to start with a team. All these odds are on FanDuel, by the way. I'm going to start with a team that I think is fool's gold. I'm not sure if I'm ready to ride them off just yet. But the Bills, they got smoked by the Colts. The Bills haven't looked great the past couple of weeks. And we're seeing their odds to win the Super Bowl. They were plus 550 to plus 900. Now, what are you thinking when you see that kind of movement they got just beat down by the Colts?
They did. And I'll be honest, for a team that's not even in the division lead right now, for them to be at the top of the market, I think is very interesting. A lot of the bookmakers I talked to still are very high on Buffalo. I have not talked to them yet this week. We'll see what they say come Monday night, Tuesday, as we reveal our Back to the Futures column that'll come out tomorrow morning. Usually they like to be a little more tempered with their responses. Sometimes they do give me little nuggets that are interesting to chew on. Personally, for me on the Bills, I still am pretty high on Buffalo. And now that they're at a price that is relatively cheap. I'm actually going to go look back right now really quick and see where they were at preseason, because I'm fascinated to see where their number kind of compares to preseason. Yeah. And if you go back to week 3 in the NFL, they were 10-1 on the Superbook. And they were 11-1 on FanDuel. And that was kind of where their low point was. I see 13-1 on FanDuel week 2. So they're kind of getting back to the point now, drifting back to that 9-10-1 range, which is where they kind of were preseason. That's where I would be a little more comfortable buying in. When they were 5-1 favorites, basically, that was obviously the high point. And I would recommend if you do have a ticket at 5-1, good luck. You're going to be probably sitting on some, negative movement for a little while. But at 9-10-1, I would be a little more interested in buying in. But here's the thing. The next 3 weeks are very tough. They go to New Orleans, then they play the Pats 2 times in a 3-week stretch. So you're probably better off just betting Buffalo every week to cover the number. And that might be the best way to play it, because I think at this point still, for them to win the AFC, I don't think I'm still getting enough meat. I would say 11, 12, over 10-1 is probably where I feel comfortable playing it.
Well, you brought up the Patriots. They're another team. Big movement after, their big win on Thursday night. Patriots to win the AFC East went from plus 440 to plus 120. I mean, I think the Patriots are back. I mean, that defense has been great. I mean, people forget. I mean, they were so bad last year, but they had a lot of dudes out because of COVID and just didn't play last year. That defense has come along really nicely. Mac Jones obviously was going into a great situation. He's been serviceable. He's been good, and they can run the ball. It's just they just win ugly. It's kind of like Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Like, I took the points last night with the Steelers because it's just one of those games where it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly, and that's the kind of game that Mike Tomlin likes. That's the kind of game that Bill Belichick likes, just those ugly, scrappy games. So what do you think about that? Plus 120 to win the AFC East.
I would not bet that now.
Yeah.
Their next 4 weeks are – so it was 8 – it was like – I'm looking here in week 8 on FanDuel, New England to win the division was 10-1. That was 3 weeks ago. That was – 3
weeks ago.
And they are now basically a coin flip, plus 120 to win the division. So their next 4 weeks, though, listen to this, AG. Titans, Bills, Colts, Titans, Bills, Colts, Bills. That's their next 4 games.
So it's going to be decided, right? I mean, yeah.
Just bet them to win those games. You're going to get more than plus 120. And if you go 3-1, they have a chance to win the division. But if you go 3-1, just betting them to win. Now, granted, this week they're laying almost 6 points against the Titans. That's kind of a revenge game. Remember a couple of years ago when that was the last playoff game for Brady, when the Titans went into town and wiped the floor with them. So very fascinating matchups over the next 4 weeks. And also, I just looked at the Bills schedule: Saints, Bucs, Patriots. Like, the Bills and the Patriots are going to be tested the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It is tough to be holding a long-term futures ticket when the amount of times that they're going to be either underdogs or maybe a slight pick 'em in those games. I would stay away from futures tickets involving the Bills and the Patriots. I would just try to find the edge in those game-to-game matchups and try to play it that way, because it's a very volatile and a very uneven landscape in the AFC right now. And the AFC East is totally up for grabs. And the Bills are still relatively heavily, invested in the markets. There's a lot of exposure to the Bills based off of preseason and, early year bets. So I think you're going to get more favorable numbers on the Pats, but I think both are kind of stayaways for me right now.
Talking about futures tickets, you're holding on to a Mac Jones Offensive Rookie of the Year ticket. How you feeling about that right now?
I feel great, dude. We nailed that market this year. So preseason we bet Fields at like 8-1. Then I got in on Jones at, I think it was 5 or 6-1. And then we got Chase at like 3-4-1. So we've got all 3 guys. And I think Fields is probably the laggard there. But I think at this point, it's either going to be Jones or Chase. And if you're holding those tickets, we posted them in the futures columns that we wrote earlier in the year. You're feeling really good about yourself. So Mac Jones. And also, how about Bill Belichick? We gave out him Coach of the Year preseason at 18-1. If they win the AFC East, I think he might be the Coach of the Year in the league.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who I could probably
Kingsbury, I think, because he's done it without.
I mean, he's
Kyler
winning
Murray.
without Kyler Murray. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the discussion too.
They're
I think
in
that's
the
probably the
discussion,
only guy that I would put up there. So yeah, Kingsbury. Listen, we're talking about guys that are back, teams that are back. The NFL has been one of those years where you kind of watch 1 week, you have to forget what you saw when you move on to the next week because everything is just so drastically different. Are the Chiefs back? I think the Chiefs are back. I think so. Their odds to win the Super Bowl went from plus 1,000 to plus 700 after beating the Cowboys yesterday. I mean, that defense. Well, I mean, if I were to tell you that the Cowboys hold the Chiefs to 19 points, right?
Feel good that the Cowboys probably going to be in that game.
The Cowboys win that game, right? I mean, so that just is a testament to this Chiefs defense. And I mean, they played lights out yesterday. So, I mean, I think I'm all in on the Chiefs. They're still having those weird turnovers, but it's not really like anybody's fault. They're just kind of like happening. Bad juju.
It's Micah Parsons' fault is who it was yesterday.
Well, I mean, he's been doing that to a lot of people. Him and Trayvon Diggs have been having that effect. So, Chiefs 7-1. How you feeling about that to win the Super Bowl?
Really good. I mean, I would say at this number, no, but at Superbook, which is, I think probably the sharpest book in Vegas, they're the top of the market. They're tied with the Bucs right now at 5-1. Usually the Superbook will kind of be the top AFC team, the top NFC team, and they'll kind of stack them accordingly. So the Superbook thinks the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now. I think it's hard to disagree with that sentiment. If you were reading our Back to the Futures column earlier in the week, or earlier in the month, you would have gotten the Chiefs at 16-1 at MGM. And I've got one of those tickets in my back pocket. I've got a 7-1 AFC ticket in my back pocket as well from a very buy low moment with Kansas City. I believe it was after the Giants game, or maybe it was after one of their losses to Tennessee. I forget which exactly game it was that dropped them to that number, which was a very buy low spot. But the Chiefs were the preseason favorites. They were 5-6-1 at most shops. They are still not back to that point. So you are still getting a little bit of a discount on the preseason number. And I mean, I'll be honest. I think the schedule. Actually, I haven't checked their schedule. Let's take a look at the Chiefs' schedule, because that would be the determining factor on whether or not you want to buy in this week. Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, Broncos. I mean, you tell me, Alex. I think they're favored in all those games, and yep. I would say at this point they are the team to beat in the AFC. The Titans have shown regression. The Bills have shown regression. There are some regression candidates among some of the other teams, like a Cincinnati that's been very volatile. Cleveland has kind of been very volatile. The Chargers, you saw what Pittsburgh did last night at the end of that game. Chargers can't win close games. They were very fortunate to win that game last night. It was Justin Herbert just basically carrying them. So I think the Chiefs are still
Mike
right
Williams.
there.
That's what happened in that one. I mean,
Mike, that was that was one. I tell you what, man, you're going to regret not being awake for that game. That was a roller coaster of emotions for you.
No, it was probably great for me that I wasn't awake. It did great things. After taking years off my life during the Ravens Bears game and just all that emotion that was going through my body, I just needed to reset. I needed to rest. So it's probably a good thing for my health that I did not stay awake for that.
That's fair. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are still a team that you haven't seen their best ball yet, I don't think. I mean, and they're a top 10 team in Dave, which is kind of recent DVOA weighted with where their preseason numbers are supposed to be. So according to like the analytics, the Chiefs are a top 10 defense right now today. And that was the one thing that people were like, I don't want to buy in on the Chiefs. Their defense is not good. That narrative does not match the analytics right now. So if the defense is playing well and Mahomes isn't turning it over, I don't see why this team isn't a favorite to win the Super Bowl right now.
All right. Well, Jared, it is Monday. We need to get some things off our chest. As you can tell, I got a lot of pent up emotion here, but I'm going to put you on the couch first. We're going to do a little Monday
I'll lean back
therapy session here. Yeah. Lean back for me. Close your eyes. Get to a happy place here. Sunday, the NFL, it just takes us for a ride every week. What is that team that just has you just contemplating everything you think you know, everything that you feel in your heart is just wrong? What team has hurt you? What team hurt you yesterday?
The Browns hurt me yesterday. I'm really good at betting on favorites that get off to great starts, like the Colts last week after they blocked the punt against the Jags, and then just taking their foot off the gas and showing you why they are not a contender to win the Super Bowl. And I know the Colts looked great yesterday. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get into that because it was the Browns this week that really disappointed me. They let Tim Boyle and DeAndre Swift just run all over the place in the second half. I'll be honest, there were a few moments in that game where I thought the Lions might win outright. And the Browns were able to make one or two plays on defense late. But when you don't score touchdowns in the second half of NFL games, you are not going to win a lot of games, and you're not going to win playoff games. And that, to me, is a Browns team that had a chance yesterday to really grab some momentum and put the pedal down. And now they get to play your Ravens on Sunday night. And, neither one of these teams, I think, really has shown you much over the last few weeks. So I think the Browns, with all that talent, I haven't seen it, and I need to see more. And it was disappointing they didn't get the cover against the Lions yesterday.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's no secret. Listen, we got Josh Helms in the chat. We're about to talk about your Bears. We're about to talk about that terrible Bears game because for those who don't know, I'm a Ravens fan, and I woke up Sunday and I just chose misery. I chose misery. I chose to not enjoy my Sunday. I just had that set in my mind. I was like, what is the way that I could make this the worst possible day? How can I have the worst day possible? And it's to fade my favorite team, to fade the Ravens. And I just saw the Browns at plus 200. Great value. At this point in time, when I saw the plus 200, the Lamar Jackson news hadn't come out. I thought the Bears were going to win that game either way, just because the Ravens defense had been that bad. The offense has not looked great. And I thought that the Bears would be able to do just enough to get out and to get a win. I thought it was going to be a nasty, ugly game, and that's exactly what it was. And then, we get to the game. Ugly game. No fun. It's probably one of the worst games I've watched this year. And then the turning point for me, and obviously we've heard all the Matt Nagy, chants at, throughout the year. But that fourth down decision in the fourth quarter there to go for it at midfield, I believe at that point it was a tie game or it was a 3-point, whatever it was. And he runs wildcat inside zone. And I'm telling you, I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, why did I bet on this team? Like, what? My hard-earned money is on the Bears. And then, go down, they get the turnover, score a touchdown, feeling great. And then they just forget to cover Sammy Watkins on a Hail Mary. The Ravens end up winning the game. And I'm conflicted because, I'm happy the Ravens won the game. But also, that Bears plus 200 was that was a pretty good bet. And it just didn't happen. It just didn't come through. Didn't come home for us. So, Josh, I'm with you. The Bears, man. The Bears they hurt me yesterday. I will not be betting on the Bears at any point in time. And as of 10:20 a.m., I haven't gotten any notifications. Matt Nagy still has a job. How does Matt Nagy still have a job?
That's the coach to me that's on the most hot, that has the hottest seat right now, I would say.
What are they doing in Chicago? What does he have on Chicago ownership?
They're 0-4 off the bye, and that's to me the biggest indicative of bad coaching. When you have an extra week to prepare and you are consistently worse than you were going into the bye, 0-4 against the spread, 0-4 straight up under Nagy off the bye. Or actually, no, they did cover yesterday, so they're 1-3 against the spread.
And there was a moment in the game where he's yelling at the NFL's audio guy because I guess his headset went out. Theory, they turned his headset off. They turned it off. They were done listening.
I did think that yesterday.
Somebody turned it off. Someone was like, all right, we're out on this
purpose.
guy. No. He doesn't. We don't. Nobody wants to listen.
That thought did cross my mind. Well, didn't they win the game that he wasn't on the sidelines for?
And Fields, that's the best game Fields has had this year.
Yes.
The best game is when he did not coach.
Actually, I don't know if they won the game. I don't remember which game.
That's the best. No. It doesn't matter. Win or loss. Fields looked like Justin Fields is supposed to look. That was the game. But I digress. The Bears. Never again. I think I'm just going to stay away from Ravens games because they hurt me too.
Yeah, that's what I do with Penn State. I don't bet Penn State unless they're an underdog because it I hate the idea of them winning and me betting on them and then the other team not covering, and it tugs on your heartstrings in a bad way. So it is best to stay away from your home teams. I do recommend that when you're gambling. Absolutely.
All right, let's get to Monday Night Football because we got a lot of questions in the chat about the game. We're going to get to for sure, and we're going to bring in our guest, Gilles Gallant of FTN Bets. Did I pronounce your name correctly? I'm sorry if I didn't.
It's all good, man. You can't have a name like mine and get offended every time somebody mispronounces it.
Hold on, can I try?
Yeah.
Go for it, Jared. Go for it.
Gilles Gallant.
Hey, touchdown. All right, we're here.
I'm telling you, it's the hockey stuff, Gilles. It's the French-Canadian hockey names. I love it, man. I love it. It's great to have you on here, bud.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
Listen, guys, we have got some Monday Night Football action tonight. We've got the Giants in Tampa getting, was 10.5 like an hour ago, now getting 11 points. Lot to get into with this game. We're going to pick some props. We're going to pick the game. So, Joe, I'm gonna just start with you because we like to give out some player props here. But are you a guy when you're picking games? Do you like to do your player props before the game, or do you wait for like an in-game opportunity and just kind of see how things are going for like a touchdown prop, whether it's first touchdown, anytime? Like, how do you go about that?
Sure. Yeah. So for touchdown props, that's pretty much the majority of my bankroll and what I bet on. I would probably say if you were to use a pie chart, it would definitely be over 75%, at least like the tiniest sliver that is bet on like sides and totals. The rest of it is mainly on touchdown props and just regular over under props like rushing yards, receiving yards, passing touchdowns, etc. So for me, what I like to do is I'm always a pregame guy. I like to have 1 unit per bet for these because, again, this is the type of market that you can kind of maybe get a little out of control. You can justify almost anything in your head a lot of the time, especially when you're looking at the odds. Because again, like you look at like a guy, you're like, okay, this guy's caught a touchdown this year. He's paying 10-1. You're going to put like maybe $10 on $100, but like that starts to add up after a while if you start getting a little bit out of control. So a lot of, for me, is what I do is I try to stick to about 2 or 3 bets per primetime game. I don't really like to go much more than that because, again, more often than not, there's only about 4 to 5 touchdowns on average per game anyway. So you're kind of minimizing your opportunity for profit. So there are some times though that you can take advantage of an in-play prop like that. So the best example was an Eagles game a few weeks ago. Miles Sanders goes down in the middle of the game. You're looking at the in-game props. This is before Jordan Howard joined the team. Boston Scott is sitting there at 20-1 anytime because the books have a react quickly enough. So that is kind of a little bit of a strategy that you have to be kind of sitting there on your phone, monitoring it like the stock market, almost like during the game. So that way you could jump on it as quickly as possible. And then of course, Boston Scott goes down, scores a touchdown. I look like a genius for 10 minutes on Twitter. But that's the one thing is that a lot of the time is that those opportunities are few and far between because the books are getting better now at being able to kind of take that prop off the market for in play, or just sometimes you're not quick enough on the trigger because you just don't happen to be sitting there staring at your phone the entire time you'd like to watch the game. And that's kind of, you live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing with that mentality. And with touchdown scores, like I have a very strict strategy because I'm betting these long term. It's not like I'm just kind of jumping in and dipping my toe in the water and then kind of moving back out. I like to have a strict strategy of what I like to do. So for example, for me, I generally don't bet touchdown scores less than plus 200 because the probability right now that what we've tracked, guys that are listed in between minus 200 to plus 190 are only hitting at a slightly better average than guys between the plus 200 to plus 499 range. So as a result, when you are hitting that, like, yes, you might long-term, if you only bet under plus 200s, would technically have maybe a slight more bit of profit, but your ceiling is capped. You have your margin for error is minimized as a result. So on Sundays, you'll see me post 5 to 7 touchdown picks for the day. Most of them are over plus 200. I will rarely post anything below plus 200 because, again, just the margin for error is so slim. And like even a guy like me, for example, who's considered an expert of touchdown score markets, I'm only hitting just under 30% for the season, but I'm up like 14 to 15 units of profit for the year on these props. So that's kind of what I have a long-term analogy and analysis of how I do these things. And anything less than plus 200 for me long-term is just not even worth playing.
It makes sense. So yeah. It really does. And you've made a nice niche for yourself doing this. I'll say in tonight's game, I think there's a lot of opportunities on the Giants side because the Bucs touchdown, gurus, the guys that you would expect are all kind of minus money or right around even money. I'll give you one that I'm looking at and you can tell me if you like it or not. But I saw Daniel Jones at plus 550 on the Superbook this morning. So that's one that I really like today, but maybe besides Jones, are there some long shot props tonight that you think might be interesting?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got 3 picks in now. I do like Jones mainly because, I know Saquon is coming back, but the one thing that to keep in mind as well is like Daniel Jones is first on the team in red zone targets. It's not like you're going to have opportunities, and it's not just like a pocket passer where it's got to be within the 5 yards or it's not going to happen. Yeah. Jones could take off between the 20s and run that in. We've seen him do that. Now we haven't seen him do it as much since week 2 and really since that concussion against Dallas. So that's one thing I've noticed is that his running tendencies have kind of reduced as the weeks have gone on. But at plus 500 with that kind of implied probability, considering he touches the ball every snap, you have to consider it. The guys that I'm actually considering tonight, the guy that I really like for the Bucs is Tyler Johnson. I got him at plus 300. He's the wide receiver 3. And look, like again, when you're looking at Tampa Bay Bucs touchdown scores, you're looking immediately at the top of the list. You got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette. You're not going to get better than plus 110 odds at really at any sports book for any of those guys. And now I'm not saying that Godwin or Evans won't score. I'm just saying that your probability of hitting it is just not accurate with the implied probability. So if applied probability at plus 110 is like 40 to 45%, do you really think you have a 45% chance that Mike Evans is going to score a touchdown tonight? I'm not one, like, I don't feel great about that. I think it's closer to around 30%. So you're not getting like that kind of average. So Tyler Johnson, for me, the reason why I'm betting him is because he's playing 70% of the snaps with Antonio Brown out of the lineup. In the last 2 games, 8 catches, 11 targets, 3 red zone targets. That's a metric that I follow very closely. Red zone targets, obviously. And again, we just kind of went over that. There's not really a ton of value for Buccaneers players. Like you might be able to justify in your mind, Cameron Brace at plus 400 or OJ Howard. It's always the tight ends that always kind of have the inflated juice comparatively to running backs or wide receivers. But I feel like as well, when you look at Antonio Brown's numbers, I'm not saying that Tyler Johnson is Antonio Brown by any stretch, but I'm just saying from the wide receiver 3 position, Brady was looking for that position over and over and over again. So for myself at plus 300, I feel like he has a great chance to score against this Giants defense that really, if you actually look statistically, they don't really have like a ton of weaknesses, but passing, they have given up 10 touchdowns to wide receivers this year. So I'm willing to take that chance with Tyler Johnson as a Buccaneer player to score tonight.
I like that pick.
Joe, we got a question in the chat for you. Who's this from? This is from Justin asking, do you like Gio Bernard at plus 310?
See, Gio Bernard is now the new James White. James White used to be one of my favorite touchdown scorer bettors to take because he's the third down back, the pass catching back. Ronald Jones has just kind of been completely phased out of this offense. Fournette is still the goal line back. He's probably the guy that is going to score tonight, but Gio Bernard has scored 3 times this year. He's one of the most profitable touchdown scorer bettors of the season if you were just to blindly bet him unit by unit per week. So, and we've seen that Brady does kind of like to be able to keep that pass catching back in the offense for those dump offs and screen passes. So against a defense like the Giants that is going to probably have to play very forceful and very maybe have to take some chances, you're going to probably see some opportunities where Brady's going to have to dump it off, you know what I mean, to Bernard. And I do, out of the running backs, he would be my favorite to play of those 3. Jared, I made a pick today with this game that you're probably going to roll your eyes as soon as you see it. It is Evan Ingram at plus 300 to score.
I like Evan. Tonight. I like the tight ends. The Bucs give up a lot of yards to tight ends.
They do.
Touchdowns.
And I think the biggest thing, like, again, I kind of felt sick even putting the bet in just because, again, he drives me crazy.
He does.
On the field,
He's
just
very
as far
volatile.
As the drops.
I like the other tight end. Kyle Rudolph is another guy that gets some red zone catches. I had one of him a couple weeks ago at 10-1.
That's right. And he caught a touchdown as like a plus 700 anytime touchdown score. First touchdown of the year. And it was just kind of, I don't want to say it was out of nowhere, but he wasn't really getting that much work. And then it was like, oh, what about Kyle Rudolph? And anyway, just long story short, it was a good hit by you. And I think the reason why I wanted to play Ingram was specifically because of the scenario. Like he's going to play over 75% of the snaps. Yeah. He's caught touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. The Bucs have allowed 59 catches, 4 touchdowns through 9 games. Both of those metrics rank bottom 10 in the NFL. Yeah. And my thing is that I want to be able to know in a specific scenario where these players are going to be. Are you going to be out there in the red zone? Are you going to be out in all those different scenarios? I can't say that 100% about Kadarius Toney and Golladay and Darius Slayton to a lesser extent. Whereas I know Ingram is going to be out there in red zone opportunities, like in between the 20s. Doesn't really matter. He's going to be out there and he's going to have to be used if the Giants even want any chance of winning this game.
Love it.
Now, I did do a long shot as well, but again, and it was mainly because of Brady. Brady plus 750, man. I was able to find
that one. I can't get behind.
No, I know. But it's just one of those things, man. That
unless they're at the 1 and he sneaks it.
Well, that's the only circumstance, and I think that's the one thing is that at plus 750, that's the reason why I grabbed it. I was able to find it at plus 750, and the reason why is because when you're looking at majority of the books, like a DraftKings, BetMGM, FanDuel, it doesn't really matter. They're all around the plus 500 to plus 550 range. So it's kind of a good number.
That's okay.
Exactly. And that's one thing that we do at FTM bets as well is I track the touchdown score odds for every single player.
Very helpful.
And what it does is adds for me to be able to look like, okay, am I buying low? Am I buying high? Helpful. Am I when he was at these odds, what is he scoring? Like the odds tell me the story way more than what the matchup and the stats.
Love
do.
it.
Love it. Great stuff, Joe. Really appreciate you taking some time with us. We've got another question in the chat for you here before we let you go. This one's coming from Alex. Great name. Do you look at red zone defense rating for, I guess it's anytime touchdowns? Is that what you're
Red zone targets I look at a lot.
I do, but again, it's one of those things that with stats, this is why, like for me, when I'm picking touchdown scores, I always look at the odds first, then I look at the matchup, then I look at the stats, because the stats will talk you out of a touchdown score 9 times out of 10 if that's the only metric that you're using, because a lot of the time you have to be able to take a leap. Like Daniel Jones against one of the top rushing defenses in the league, you wouldn't generally feel comfortable betting that if it was even odds, but at plus 550, those odds kind of will be able to steer you in that kind of direction, right? So that's kind of for me, is that it's not necessarily that I don't look at red zone defense. I just think that stat is a little bit overrated, just as far as what, like when a team is within the 10-yard line, you could be the 85 Bears. It doesn't really matter in offense. If they're efficient enough, they're going to get into the end zone.
Awesome. Before we let you go, you got to give the people your best bet for tonight. What you got?
Sure. So I'm going to write about this a little bit later at ftmbets.com, but my favorite pick tonight is actually Tom Brady to throw an INT at plus 105. He's got 7 interceptions already this year. He had 12 last year, and I didn't realize when I was looking at the splits that of those 12, 10 of them were in home games. And the Giants are actually top 5 in the NFL in forced interceptions, and they also have an interception in each road game this season. So I personally think, especially with what we've seen of Brady in the last few games, like he threw 2 against Washington, 2
very early too.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of those stats, and again, just one of these bets at a nice little plus 105, nice little bit of plus money for something that I think is easily going to happen tonight.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's great stuff.
I think I'm sold. I think I'm going to be telling you on that one.
All right.
All right. Well, that is Gilles Gallant of Bets TV and FTN Bets. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate
Thank you, gents.
Appreciate you, man. Great stuff, Gilles. We'll talk.
Cheers, fellas. Let's get some money tonight.
Let's do it. All right, Jared, let's finish things off with our picks of the day. But before we get into our personal plays, is there a play on the website? Is there a 3-star play on the website that you are seeing?
Oh, there is actually. There's 2. Our buddy A.O. Ortenberg, by the way, great sweep for the Let's Bet It PODs yesterday with A.O. and Monos. And Jim actually is in the chat. He said he's back on. His love affair with Kirk Cousins is back. I did notice.
Oh, don't do that, Jim.
I did see that, Jim. If you're still watching, bud.
He's gonna
Kirky with the big win yesterday. So he's on the Ortenberg's on the Giants tonight, getting 10 in the hook. I know it's going to agree with your pick. And I've been following this guy's NBA picks. I apologize, Hermantas Nita, if I mispronounce your name. He's laying with the Bulls tonight, laying 3 at home against the Pacers, which I think didn't the Bulls play last night against the Knicks? So second of a back-to-back, I think, for the Bulls, but the Pacers have been this year. So interesting play there. Go to Pickswise.com, read about it. Also, I'll give out a couple of props that I like for tonight.
Yes.
Before I get to my POD, which is not in the NFL. So kind of along the lines of what Gilles was saying about Brady being kind of a chuck and duck QB tonight. I think he's just going to be I think the Bucs are going to be very aggressive tonight, and I think they might actually at some point have to throw to get back in this game, because I think the Giants are a live dog tonight. So Brady's pass attempts prop at 37.5 is very intriguing to me. He's 6-3 to the over on that number this year, and the 3 times that he lost, it was 36, 36, and 34. So it wasn't like he was far off. So I think Brady throws it a lot tonight. I think the Bucs are going to be very aggressive tonight. They're coming off of 2 losses. And if I had to pick one Giants receiver, I know they're getting Slayton back. I know, Shepard is still banged up a little bit. But I think Kenny Golladay, off the bye, he's healthy, and they're paying this guy like a boatload of money, and he hasn't caught a touchdown yet this year. I got a very favorable number at 46.5 receiving yards for Kenny Golladay on FanDuel. I think that's worth a small nibble to the over. And then I'm on the Jones anytime touchdown at plus 550. So those are the 3 props I'll give out tonight. Again, I'll probably get a tail some of Gilles' touchdown props. And that interception one seemed very intriguing too for Brady. But I think the Brady over 37.5 pass attempts, Golladay over 46.5 receiving yards, and Jones anytime touchdown at plus 550. Those will be the props tonight for my MNF plays.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give out one little prop before I get to my play of the day as well. Rob Gronkowski, questionable, I believe, still at this point to play tonight, but I like over 30.5 yards if he's able to go. If he can go tonight, I mean, you got to think he's going to be immediately one of Brady's favorite targets, right? I mean, they've been together forever. It's going to be a sight for sore eyes for Brady, with Antonio Brown out, Godwin's banged up, it's just kind of like a safety net. And, he's gone over that. I mean, I'm not counting the Saints game, but in the first 3 games of the season, Gronk went over that number every time, and he's getting, 5+ targets each game. So, I like Gronk if he's able to come back to be that safety blanket for Brady. 31 yards, it's not asking for a ton. So I think Gronk's going to be able to get over that pretty easily. And I am going to stay with that game for my play of the day. I loved it at 10.5, and at 11, I love it even more. That's where it's at when I last checked. But Giants, I'm going to take the points tonight. And I'm going to just ask the chat real quick, and just, people can respond in here. Does anyone feel comfortable laying 11 points with any team in the NFL at this point? So
I've learned my lesson the last 3 weeks.
Let's just start
the Bills against the Jags. I laid it with the Bucs against Washington, laid it with the Browns yesterday. I'm done laying more than a field goal in the NFL.
Laying 11 points in the NFL, the way things have been, it's just crazy. You'd be crazy to do that. So I
don't care how many stats or trends you see. These games are just so volatile. Like it's really tough.
Pocket the 11 points. I mean, look, and then we could take it a step further and look at the primetime trends with the primetime dogs, and just it's just.
I'll give you the number right here. I track it. It's this year. Primetime favorites are 9-21 against the spread.
I mean, look, I'm going to go ahead. I like Daniel Jones on the road. I like the fact that Barkley is coming back, or could be coming back tonight. That Giants defense, I think, is a little underrated. They've been playing pretty well the past couple of weeks. They're a little feisty. I like what they're doing there. And, I mean, I think that the Bucs, they couldn't possibly look any worse than they did against the Washington football team. It's not going to be like that. But I think that the Giants are going to be able to hang in this game. And I'm just going to pocket the 11 points and I feel really good about that, actually.
Yeah, I would only play. That's the only side I would play. I'm not playing a side tonight. I like the prop angle tonight. I really like Gilles' approach. We've been connected on social media for a while, and he's a great follow for baseball. If you like home run props, that's kind of his niche. And I think the touchdown markets can be fascinating. They are very much like buying low, selling high. And I think this is going to be a fun prop game tonight. Totals at 50, so you would expect there to be some points and some movement. So I think that's a very interesting way to play it. I'll give you a play of the day that has nothing to do with the NFL. And I've been loving the puck picks. The puck picks have been they've been good to me. I really like playing. I think I'm seeing the hockey markets as good as any other market in the league, right? In any other league right now. So I'll stick with the hockey theme. Let me pull up my notes here because I had the NFL stuff up. I'm going with the Blues money line tonight. I'm going with the three-way money line, which means they have to win in regulation against Vegas. So the market here is very telling. So St. Louis has dropped 5 of 6. Vegas has won 5 of 6. All right, well, why are the Blues opening as a favorite, and why is the line moving 30 cents in their direction to -150? Pretty telling, because Vegas, again, is red hot. St. Louis is ice cold. But sometimes buy low, the market kind of tells you when the buy low spot is. I think it's tonight for St. Louis. A lot of injuries for Vegas. Eichel, Carlson, Marchessault, Martinez, Pacioretty. None of those guys are playing. And the market is telling me that it's St. Louis's night to play well. I got it at +110 at the Superbook for them to win in regulation. And that's my play of the day. St. Louis Blues.
Love it. A lot of people in the chat right now still talking about that Monday night game. A lot of people staying away from sides, just playing props tonight. We got Sam in the chat saying Bucs 3-0 against the spread at home, laying double digits.
Too small of a sample size for that.
But you can't feel good about laying it tonight.
I mean, that's like 3 games is way too small of a sample size to draw any reasonable conclusions.
Yeah.
Even the 9-21 primetime favorites against the spread this year is a relatively small sample size to draw any reasonable conclusions. But I think that trend speaks more to the volatility of the NFL than a 3-game sample size. And who were those games against? Really bad teams. So that's a tough reason to to make a bet based off of that trend, I would say is not a wise choice. Just my personal opinion.
Absolutely. All right, let's get out of here. Good luck with your bets tonight. Good luck to everyone watching with your bets tonight as well. Let's try to win some money tonight. We'll be back tomorrow.